Every time we talk about this, a piece of Shaka Hislop dies inside, but we're going to have to press on. Alexander Isak to Liverpool. Gab, what's the latest here? How likely is it to happen now?
Well, I mean, obviously, the sale of Luis Diaz, I think what most people would say is a very good price given his age and his contractual situation to Bayern. That brings in a pretty significant chunk of funds. I'm still a little bit skeptical that this can be done without more pieces moving out, because I genuinely think the priority is or should be, or maybe it's all a smokescreen and they're really working on this, a center back, right? Lock up Konate and get somebody in there so that, when Virgil is ready to hang them up, you've got a third alternative that's not Joe Gomez. But certainly Isak has made his position very clear towards Newcastle about sort of expecting to be allowed to leave. And if Newcastle are going to stick to the kind of valuation that they've had, then it becomes a lot more difficult. Now, in some ways, Šeško, though, is a piece of this puzzle, right? Because what Newcastle want to absolutely avoid is Isak leaving, even for a large chunk of cash, and then Newcastle being forced to go out in the market for a center forward, with everybody knowing that they're sitting on the Isak money. And then it becomes very difficult to negotiate. So I think maybe just as Ekitike seemed to fit into this equation somehow, Šeško may fit into it as well, with Newcastle or more likely intermediaries saying, well, hang on a minute, if you lose one big lanky striker with a Bundesliga pedigree, here's another one who could be kind of the next Isak. Different players, obviously, but you get my point here. And if you know that you can bank some of the Isak money, and then you already have a replacement with maybe the other half of the money, then maybe you're in good shape. Then maybe you're not going to necessarily go to war with the player who, lest we forget, has another 3 years on his contract. My hunch still is that this ends up with Isak signing a new deal, albeit one with a release clause. But man, what we're seeing Liverpool do, especially on the selling side, anything can happen.
Are you Manchester City in disguise? That's exactly what I would ask Liverpool. But yeah, we're seeing figures of up to almost 120 million. If this does happen for Liverpool, what does it mean for Ekitike after we spoke so glowingly about him and how he'd be a great signing for Liverpool? But will he get any playing time if they get Isak?
He's in the market again. They will keep him for a couple of weeks, one half on a world tour, and he's out again. It's interesting. I will think that this was talked about. I think that they've been open about that also Isak could come in. And the funny part of his, I go behind Gab's analysis, but the funny part is that Manchester United is playing a role here, because if they get Šeško, Newcastle won't get Šeško, and Isak maybe have to stay. So Manchester United can keep Isak away from Liverpool. So there is so many things playing into this, and the timeline is important here. Who starts first? And as Gab is saying, if they get unbelievable money, but I can understand that the football fans out there, they don't get this. They don't understand why Alexander Isak's club, they got more oil and gas than the whole rest of the world. And Liverpool, last time we checked, there was no oil gas in Liverpool. But we know, we understand how they've done this over the 3 last windows. They built up their potential to use that money. They get money when players go out. They got a new deal with Adidas. They won the league and so on. But I think in this stage of the transfer window, it's just unbelievable. And to your point, Ekitike, so they got the mini Isak, and then they take the main Isak as well. I mean, that is just unbelievable. And even Stevie will need to say that the Liverpool had already won the league, haven't they, Stevie?
Yeah, Stevie, what do you think of all this?
I think it's really strange that if tomorrow is Liverpool sign Isak for 120 million, I'm not going to be dancing on the table. Which seems a little weird, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It does.
Shaka will be bawling.
Yeah, well, I'll be crying under the table.
You know, I've just sat here and talked about Man United, where I'm saying you have to build through the guts of the team, and you build from the back forward, and you get your base and the whole thing.
You want your centre-back, don't you?
I want my centre-back.
Yeah.
You know, had Ekitike not been at Liverpool, I would be dancing on the table if they turned around tomorrow and said we signed Isak. But the fact that they have Ekitike now, I'm thinking 120 million on. It kind of feels like something you don't need. When there's a big hole that, well, I think it's clear there's a big hole there that needs filled, but yet you're going to spend 120 mil on something you probably don't need. That's kind of weird.
It is a weird situation, Shaka, but even weirder if this deal doesn't materialize and Isak stays at Newcastle. Say they offer him a great deal, they get to keep the man there at St. James's Park, but then will they still get the same productivity from him if they block this move?
If the move doesn't come through, I think they will. Alexander Isak is, 26, 27 years old, still has a lot of miles on his clock, and you understand that he continues to play as he has over the last couple of seasons, especially last season where he was relatively injury-free. That value only continues to go up. And as I mentioned, in talking about Benjamin Sesko and both Manchester United and Newcastle
But
involved, that's a very small pool.
would he be happy if they force him to stay? We can see how toxic these situations get.
Well, force is a strong word in that, to Gab's point, he's got 3 years left on his contract.
If they firmly remind him of that, then.
Well, and that's the thing. Listen, and as much as, you know, by according to reports, he's not shown up for training and kind of let his feelings be known, that's all well and good. If Newcastle stick to their guns, if they can't get a replacement and decide, well, you're staying, he has one of two choices. One, not to play. That does his value no good. That does prospects no good. That does any interest from the likes of Liverpool or anybody else absolutely no good. Or play, have another season as he did. And as Gab said, Gab filled me with hope. I'm not sure how Gab knew exactly how much he filled me with hope by saying he thinks the outcome to this is Alexander Isak signs a new deal with a release clause. Then that's a win for Alexander Isak. That's a win for Newcastle United, if we get to that stage. Now, again, we've got another month and a couple of days to run before the transfer window closes. So there's a lot that can happen in that space. But there really isn't a lot by way of ready-made replacements with potential for Newcastle. And I think that kind of is restricting what they do, because I do not think they let Alexander Isak go without a replacement.
And I do not think Shaka Hislop can sit through another segment where we're talking about
Gab has filled me with hope, though. Gab has given me hope.
Filled you with hope,
He really has.
Well, we've got extra time coming your way a little later on, and Jan and Gab will be back for that alongside myself, as well as Stevie and Shaka. So tune in for it.